Hello and welcome to episode 232 of the 77 Club. Harry, start with the socials.
Yes, it's the Wolves 77 Club on Facebook and Instagram, at 77 Club Podcast on Twitter. Please subscribe to us on YouTube, like the videos, and rate us on Spotify.
Dan Bayliss is here.
Hello.
Harry, let's start then. The opening game of the season, we were a little bit deflated, I'd say, or like a little bit underwhelmed last week with the arrival of Gary O'Neill, Lopetegui having departed. We didn't really know what to say about his arrival, didn't really have that much time to plan for it, but it was a trip to Old Trafford. A 1-0 loss. We're talking about VAR again. You made the mistake of going to the pub to watch it with a load of Man United fans who I imagine wanted to ask you what it was like to go to Old Trafford.
Well, first of all, I'm going to say that was a big mistake, going to the pub with Man United fans to watch that, because it made me fuming. But what I'm going to write back, and we got a lot of criticism last week for being very doom and gloom, which you've got to think we did the podcast right after Lopetegui just left and Gary O'Neill just been confirmed. So we were all a bit upset, let's be honest. So I can see why people were saying that. But what I am going to say is, personally myself, I think we owe Gary O'Neill a little bit of an apology, because the way he approached this game, although he selected the team he selected, I'd have had Fabio in there. But apart from that, really like his team selection. And not just the team selection, it's the way we approached it. First 5 minutes on the front foot, high pressure. We took it to United, and that is a very brave thing to do. And I'm so glad he did it, because if we'd have just sat back, we'd have ended up losing 2 or 3 anyway, because they'd have had all the ball, broke us down and beat us. So fair play to Gary O'Neill. I'll eat my hat. We were all talking about relegation last week, like a lot of people from the outside looking in were. But as we mentioned, apart from Neves, a lot of the players that have gone are not really starters, and we've got a decent starting 11 there and a couple on the bench that are good. So what I'm going to say is, I'm very fickle, I admit it, but I am now not worried, and I am now glad I predicted 11th place last week and not relegation, because that was a fantastic performance from minute 1 to 97.
Now, without pissing on Harry's bonfire here, I'll play devil's advocate a little bit, and I'll say how much of that was down to a Lopetegui pre-season or a Gary O'Neill masterclass in 4 days, Dan?
That a bit of that. I don't think that really matters. I think it's more about quality and how the manager wanted to play the game, which is more important. And we did play really well, not taking too much away from them. There are some sort of warning flags. You can't have 23 chances and score 0. Everyone's going, Wolves deserved the result, Wolves deserved the result. We did, because of one bit of ridiculous officiating. But there were so many other chances where Wolves should have scored 1, if not 3, 4 goals. So we made a rod for our own back by not forcing the game in normal style. I mean, Cunha's been lauded over, and he did play superbly well, but it was very much an Adama Traore-esque performance, in my opinion. You know, looked absolutely brilliant from the halfway line to the edge of the 18-yard box. And after that, couldn't hit the side of a Renault Spass, as Harry Mansell would say.
I mean, Harry, the chance that he missed, essentially an open goal hitting the post, is pretty unforgivable. I think when you look at the price tag and the stature of the player that he is, the position that he got himself into, it just, to me, he needs to be burying that.
Yes, he does, but that's why I want Fabio Silva to play. I know Fabio Silva come on and missed 2 good chances himself, but he should be starting, because we know Cunha is not a goal scorer. What he is an incredible footballer. Some of those runs he did in that game were absolutely outstanding. Like, people were like on Twitter and that just couldn't believe it, could they? They were like, "Who's this? Who's this player?" We know he's got that in him, but we also know he can't finish. So he needs that partner, if it's Kalajic, if it's Fabio, to try and put the ball in the net. But we've got some kind of weird curse over us as a team, whereas we were getting bodies in the box, we're having chance after chance. Couldn't score, could we? But very, like Neto as well, had a really good chance and hit it straight at the keeper. But Cunha, he got player of the match, and he deserved it, because he was absolutely outstanding. But I do agree, having saying that, he should have scored. He should have scored 2, really. I think he should have finished that one first off as well. But him, Nunes, Lamina, Gomez, just the way they were brave and would pick up the ball and just turn and run at Man United's defence, at the heart of their defence, scare the life out of them, was so good to watch. And they made me proud last night. They really did. I've gone from being worried to being very proud, and I'm being really positive from now on. I'm telling you,
Harry, just to sit on the other side of the fence then and do the devil's
Go on
advocate
then.
bit.
Go on. Then.
How many times did we turn the ball over in our own half?
It was risky, but I loved it.
15 times.
Living on the
it
edge.
was really entertaining to watch.
Exactly. That's what we want. That's what we want.
But I think a better team would have done us on the day. I thought Man United were very poor. Their passing
We
in the
made
final
them
third
poor.
was absolutely
I agree with Harry there. I think Lamina especially was phenomenal.
And Gomez.
He was like Kante. He really was just everywhere. He was nipping in, and actually Gomez, to be fair, was doing exactly that, nipping in, nicking the ball off him. But I think the stat that Dan touched upon there was 23 shots on target, and you have to go back to 2005 when it was Chelsea, I think, who had 25 shots away at Old Trafford, and they lost 1-0 as well. So just goes to show that golden Chelsea generation, they weren't short of strikers at that time.
I don't think Cunha should have been man of the match either.
Who would
you think
who
he
was
should
on
be?
the foot?
Yeah, Semedo or Lamina.
Wow,
way
this is
better.
unbelievable.
So it's the best game I've ever seen Semedo have in a Wolves shirt. Full stop. He was absolutely brilliant, start to end. I can't think of one or two times he got forward and then the ball got played back over the top and we turned it over. But other than that, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. His tackling was superb.
He made that little Argentinian Garnacho, the winger, look silly. Like he just had him in his pocket. They took him off. He couldn't do anything against him. Everything Semedo did, apart from he fell asleep a little bit for their goal, which people have pointed out. But apart from that, 10 out of 10 performance. Unbelievable. Doherty must have been sat on the bench thinking, oh my God, how am I getting into this team?
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
I was going to say, how much of a kick up the arse may have been to have Doherty, who's a realistic right back, to come in and take your place, and then the first league game of the season he puts in Daniel Bayless's words, a 10 out of 10 performance.
Yeah, he was brilliant. He was absolutely brilliant. I've never seen him play like that. I have got a new target though, because Sarabia is no good. No good.
Can we be positive? Can we be positive this week? I do agree. He come off, didn't he? I think Gary O'Neill identified it as well. He had a few little good moments. He probably should have scored first half, but it's just he lacks that bit of pace, doesn't he?
I think what it is it takes them a couple of years to realise they have to step up in these style of teams, and they're not at PSG, Barcelona, Real Madrid, et al. Anymore. And then when they do realise that, they're all right. But that's why
for me, mate. That's why I think Fabio Silva should play instead of Sarabia. That's why I want Fabio.
Harry, in 24 hours, we might not have Fabio Silva. The last hour, Twitter's been totally awash with him going to Borussia Dortmund.
Yeah, and also with him, I seen on Instagram that someone said, why haven't you got number 9? You kind of like their message and things like that. I think he wants to be a guaranteed starter, and I don't think he's going to get that, is he, ahead of Cunha? But I can't, but all the fans want him to start, don't they? There's always a player like this where the fans want him to start. We love him, but we don't see what goes on in the week, do we? But he come on, and I thought he did okay. He should have scored 2 good saves from, what's your name? But yeah, he was promising when he come on, and we've seen in pre-season how good they were together. But I'm just absolutely buzzing with the performance. I was absolutely gutted last night, but I've woke up and I've flipped my mood and just been like very proud of the performance, although annoyed that we can't finish. And I've I think it's awakened a beast in us, this VAR thing happening. I think it's brought the club and the fans together. It's us v everyone else mentality now. But what I will say is, I can't believe, usually when something like this happens, the mainstream kind of ignore it, but everyone's been on it, haven't they? Everyone's agreeing with like the Wolves fans for once. After the Raul one, they kind of sweep that one under the carpet away at Newcastle last season. This one, everyone's on it. I don't know if it's had more eyeballs on it because it's Man United, but yeah.
Yes, because all the other big fans hate Man United.
True. I mean, to be fair, like even the Peter Schmeichels of the world were saying, I cannot believe, on 5 Live earlier, saying he just couldn't believe that something that has been put into the game, VAR, to correct incorrect decisions has not picked up. He's not even gone over to the monitor.
We keep talking about the good bits before we get onto the VAR nonsense.
Well, also, I want to
good things to talk about.
It is, I thought, a new lease of life for Pedro Neto.
I thought he was good.
I thought he was phenomenal.
He was on the right, wasn't he? So they kind of put Nunes out on the left, and I think Neto struggled when he's been on the left, and he was cutting in when some of the balls he whipped in Neto are really dangerous. But I can't get that chance out of my head. The one that fell to him at the back stick, and he just hit straight at.
I mean,
Banana. Yeah, but he's improving. He really is. I can see why he started.
Yeah, is this a case of little bit of rose tinted spectacles in the last just less than 24 hours? from a Wolves
For
perspective.
Wolves.
Yeah, because it's very easy to say, God, we were brilliant. We should
Was we
have come
not?
away with something there. Yeah, we played good football, but it's still a 1-0 loss away against a team that didn't look at the races.
Bayliss,
So
what was we
I
saying
want to
last
take the
week? You
positives. I want to take the positives.
predicted a 4-5 or a 6-0 loss last week. I predicted a 3-0 loss. We all predicted a loss. I think Sam said 1-1. You've got to be pleasantly surprised with that performance. I was sat in the pub. Everyone in the pub was saying this is going to be 3 or 4. We shocked Man United. They probably underestimated us a bit because of all the narrative around us. Everyone's saying we're going to go down. All the mainstream media. We shocked everyone last night.
But it just
and we
worries
put Man
me
United to the sword.
How can you make 20 chances and not score a goal? Because in the games then when you only create 4 or 5 chances, you're definitely not going to score a goal.
But it's better to have 23 chances than only create 2, isn't it? That's one good way to look at it.
If we'd have had 1 shot on target and it had been 1-1, I'd have been much happier.
I think is this the highest that the expected goals had been for
us ever.
a very, very long time, and certainly more than the average of the Lopetegui 9-month stint. So, I think those stats are okay to look at sometimes. And I think normally they're not too far away, especially when it is a low scoring side, and it's been a trajectory, hasn't it? Was it 38 goals in 38 games? And then last season was 31 in 38. So going back to what Jack said last week about that downward trend and stuff. But, I think we're just happy that we're creating the chances, because if you haven't got the XG, then you're definitely not going to score many goals at all, and that's been the case certainly for the last 12 months.
The one thing I've sort of got the thought of here is if Cunha scores in the next couple of games, we're in business. He'll get his confidence. He'll start taking those half chances. He might be all right. If he goes barren for the next 3 or 4, and we still play like that, it's going to be tough for him. Really tough for him.
What I will say, sorry, Sam, before sorry to put in, I don't think, I know it's easy to say now when we can never know. I don't think we perform like that if Lopetegui's in the dugout. I know we've all had the pre-season with Lopetegui, and you say O'Neill's just took over and what he did. I think O'Neill really got his game plan right to do the high pressing and try and go at them. I really don't think Lopetegui would have done that. I think we'd have sat back, tried to get behind the ball and just try and nick a goal or somehow when we'd eventually lost. So I think we've really got to praise Gary O'Neill for that, because we were so critical of him. I think you've just got to give credit where it's due. If his tactics were spot on to go at him. I know we lost, but we created so many chances. It's not his fault our striker's gone hit a barn door, is it?
And I know it's a sort of thing where sometimes it's like nice guys finish last, but when he was doing the sort of talking to Sky after the game, just came across as like a really genuine guy as well, like really, really well. And you could see why maybe a squad that's been pretty much hammered by the manager that's come in and won safety and said, this group of players is not good enough, we need more signings. He's sort of like given them that belief, and I think they believe everything that he's saying, and that is really, really important. But then the senior players are stepping it up as well. So, the João Gomez's of the world have got a long, hopefully fruitful career in front of them, and are definitely showing signs of a player being in there. But Harry, I think you posted Craig Dawson's games by numbers from Statman Dave on Twitter. 86% pass accuracy, 66 touches, 8 out of 8 aerial duels won, 8 long balls completed, 5 clearances, 2 out of 3 ground duels won, 2 shots blocked, 2 tackles won, 1 goal line clearance, key pass. They're incredible stats for somebody who we were expecting to maybe turn up on Old Trafford and get turned over.
That's the thing. That's what I was pleasantly surprised about as well. There was a couple of moments first half where I think Kilman and I forget who else give the ball away really sloppily, and Rashford nearly scored. But I also thought Kilman was immense as well at the back with Dawson, and solid as a rock, weren't they? And they ain't got much competition behind them, so they've got no one trying to nick their place. And they were both brilliant. With Rashford, I forgot he was on the pitch, to be honest. They had to take him off because they did so well against him.
Now the match officials from the game have been dropped for the weekend, Bayliss. We've got to talk about the VAR non-decision. So Simon Hooper won't be taking part. Michael Salisbury, who was on VAR, and Richard West have not been selected for a game at the coming weekend. But let's talk about the game that they were selected for. To me, all day long, if you body check somebody in the area and you're the goalkeeper, 9 times out of 10, you're going to give away a penalty.
It's just nonsense, isn't it? I mean, it's all been said, and we've got to discuss it, or else no one's going to listen to this podcast. So everyone's going to come up with some ridiculous statement. But I don't know. If anyone listening to this goes to work tomorrow or the day after and has to make one key decision in their role and gets it completely and utterly wrong, do they get a bollocking? Do they have to go and face up to the facts? Do they have to apologise? What do they have to do? And these guys next to dig their head in the stand, disappear for a week or two, and they'll be straight back on. And they're probably still picking up their wage. But it's just embarrassing. It is. We have one of the best sports in the world, played by the greatest athletes, absolute professionals, run by middle-aged, fat, bold men. That, I mean, Mike Dean's profession, not that I'm knocking anyone's profession, but his profession before becoming a football manager was killing chickens. I mean, they aren't exactly
retired, so.
Yeah, I know, but I've just given an example. They aren't exactly intellectual heavyweights or athletes and people that should be minded. Not that I'm saying go and get a load of Cambridge professors to referee football.
Howard Webb was a police officer, Bayliss.
That explains a lot.
So, Harry, I mean, before the game in the hospitality, you've got John Moss and Howard Webb. Obviously, I mean, part of me thinks, why wouldn't they be there? Because it's hospitality, it's Monday Night Football. You have a corporate side to the sport. They're in there. I mean, Howard Webb is a Man United fan, doesn't really help. But John Moss comes out to Gary O'Neill after the game and says, blatant penalty, really, really sorry you get it wrong. And, you know, we're talking about week 1 in the Premier League, and we've got our first PGMOL apology.
Yeah, it's just, we're just picking up from where we left off, haven't we? And first of all, before we talk about all that you just mentioned, it's just the fact that everyone was like, yeah, penalty, you're just waiting for it. Fair enough. If the referees missed it, then fair enough, whatever. I know Howard Webb is banging on about go with the on-field decisions more, but with VAR there, the referees instantly just think, oh, if I'm not that sure, if I'm not 100%, let's just leave it to them up there. For them to look at it and think, no, there's not been an error here, is absolute shambles. And when he went running over, everyone thought in the pub when I was watching it, he was going to go check the screen. He booked Gary O'Neill. That was just rubbing salt in the wounds. You can't get a more blatant penalty. Look, John Moss did apologise to Gary O'Neill after, but exactly, that's what I'm so annoyed about, because what is it? Is he going to apologise if we go down on 34 points and get relegated and we would have survived on 35 on goal difference? Of course they're not. They're not going to give a shit. And to rub salt in the wounds again, I know no one would have cared about this if nothing happened, but the fact that they're all in the bloody Manchester United hospitality eating prawn sandwiches, probably with all the bloody Man United executives, just makes it look even worse. All it is self-consciously in their head, they're at Old Trafford, it's the 95th minute. They don't want all the shit of if it wasn't a penalty for whatever reason, which it was, and we equalised, they don't want all the shit off a bigger club. But it's backfired on them because everyone's watching it. There's millions of eyes on it, and they look absolutely ridiculous. And I'm glad they should be suspended for weeks. They should be suspended for weeks for this, because every man and their dog, apart from the really biased Man United fans I was sat with in the pub with, knew that was a penalty.
Yeah, Harry, you're right, and I agree with exactly what you're saying. But at the same point, to want to be a football referee at that level, you've got to have a bit of a power trip about you and a bit of arrogance, and you know, the ones you get to see that do a bit more than just referee the games and actually talk. You get that about their character, right? They're a bit narcissistic and power hungry, and I think when they're going out to make these decisions, it's about them, and that's about it. And I think they, like you said, they're thinking about their career and themselves. And if you give a penalty to Wolves against Man United, that looks a lot worse than not giving a penalty to Wolves against Man United. And that's the foundation of the decision. Not, is it a foul or not? And that is the crux of it. That's why you can split it down into 2 or 3 things here, right? It either is totally corrupt, and the whole point of VAR is there to help the bigger teams. And there's evidence, I think, to support that.
Feels like that.
Or it's a piece of technology being used so badly by the people who've got it that the people using it are too inept to do their job. So we need to get better referees. So which one is it? So I'm on the fence on that. I don't know. I think the referees are a bit thick, power hungry and arrogant. So they're making the wrong decisions. But I also think that a lot of the decisions, and we see it time and time again, we've discussed it 20 fucking times on this podcast, for God's sake, is wrong decisions go against the smaller clubs.
I said on my video yesterday, I know we're biased because we're Wolves fans, but it does feel like we've had way more than most teams. The Raul one's the first one that comes to mind, away at Newcastle last year. We've had a few of these now where it's been absolute howlers.
Okay, yeah, I take the point. Now, first thing, everything that Bailey said about referees, he used to be a referee. Secondly, the power hungry narcissist, I think you called them. Secondly, and I think this does matter when we call into question sort of like the corruption and how many go against us. Is it 9 times out of 10, this is going to come back to the facts that we don't score many goals, we don't create normally many chances apart from ironically last night. And so when something gets picked up like this, it means so much more. In this case, it cost us an opportunity to potentially get a point. I think the way that we were in front of goal, we probably missed the fucking penalty anyway. But if you look at it in that way and you think, actually, if we'd have been 2-1 at the time and that happens, this doesn't get the coverage that it does, and we probably don't feel as aggrieved. So I think there has to be that element of context put into this situation, because if you don't create the chances, you don't get the goals, you're scoring not even a goal a game in the Premier League last season. It's going to make a massive difference, because Dan, if we'd have won that game because we scored one of our 23 shots or one of our 6 on target, we're not talking about VAR anywhere near as much as we're talking about right now.
I still think it needs to be discussed though, because these are
agree,
calls
but not
in
to the
games
same level.
That are
not to the same
consistently wrong. I think the only way I think they can fairly do it is if the blokes in the VAR room have no idea what game they're doing in some way, or they compute. Well, yeah, okay. So they know what game they're doing, but they computer generate the play, and one team's black, the other team's white, and they say, "Is this a foul or not? Is it a penalty?"
It'd be very hard to do that, wouldn't it? I think
it's impossible. But I just think the club and the influence and their own understanding of it, of making that decision, is influencing them so heavily.
I think it's more what you said, Bailey, that they're just not very good at their job. And I also think they don't mean it, but I think just subconsciously, they can't help it. They'll never admit it. But I think it's just in their head that they do sway towards the bigger teams just because they know the backlash will be heavier if the bigger teams get hard done to.
Yeah,
it's just subconscious in their head.
This story, we're talking about it for everyone else in football, it's fish wrapping now.
Well,
it's probably something that they can all relate to, though, as well. Yeah, I don't think there's a fan in the country, if you ask them, is VAR being used to the best of its ability? I don't think many would say yes.
I sort of disagree as well how they're doing it. So the justification that I've heard from last night was referees are supposed to make the decision and we don't want to overrule referees. But if your eyelash is offside, then it's offside. So are we going into a minute detail to make a decision, or are we letting the referees referee the game?
Yeah, they need to make their mind up. It's ridiculous. Same with the Raul one, isn't it, at Newcastle? The referee couldn't see it because he was about 80 yards away, but they were like, no, we're going with his decision. He couldn't see it. Yeah. He was miles away. But I just want to bring this up, sorry. So I'm just going to read this comment out, just because it's about Leeds. Oh, no, sorry, not that comment. Someone put a comment about, remember when Adama got pulled at Leeds at home, we lost 4-2? Remember when he got pulled and they checked it and they still didn't give the foul and they give Leeds a goal and we lost 4-2.
Okay, yeah.
So that was another example of a bad one. But what I will say is someone was putting in my comments on my video earlier. He was like, he's a Leeds fan, was like, you Wolves fans weren't moaning at the first game of last season when Jose Sarr, if you go back and watch it, did the exact same thing as Onana, clattered their striker, missed the ball. Nothing was given. VAR didn't check it and that. But the difference is, I remember back then, most Wolves fans were like, whoa, we got away with one there. That definitely should have been a penalty in that. But the Leeds fans are all just like, no, you can't be all uproar. You didn't think that was a penalty back then, but we did. So all fans have things like this happen to them. And to be fair, apart from the few dickheads I was with in the pub last night, most Man United fans on Twitter have said, look, it was a penalty. You know what I mean?
Of course it is. Yeah, I think if you look at it with a level head, 100%, and Leeds fans having a go, losing to Birmingham City at the weekend. So do with that what you will. Was there a man of the match? I mean, I think there are quite a few Wolves players that would probably fit that bill, Bayliss, that creep into it. Yeah, I think you'll probably stick with Semedo.
Yeah, probably one on balance. I thought Lamina was very, very good as well.
I agree.
Yeah, maybe just on balance, Semedo.
Harry?
I just before I give my man of the match, I also just want to mention someone we haven't mentioned at all. I thought Aït-Nouri had a really good game too. Some of his runs going forward, his feet, unbelievable. And I thought he did quite well against Anthony.
That's strange because the always Wolves, whatever the fan page thing is, they slammed him. They gave him like 5 out of 10. I thought he played quite well.
Yeah, I thought he was brilliant. So I don't agree with whoever you just said. But my man of the match, I'm split. I really want to say Cunha. I know he missed the sitters, but I've got to say Cunha. I think he's split between him, Semedo, Lamina, Gomez, and Nunes for me.
Doesn't
But
that
I'm
just
gonna
say
go
it?
Cunha.
Doesn't that just say it all though? Like of how proud we are of that performance, where we go, well, it could be one of four. I think, I think Hwang did a great job. I really do.
He did.
He
When
made
he
a difference when he came on. But for me, I think I'm going to stick with Lamina.
This is actually a really good point. This is a really good point that Arthur Bushby's just put up. When they scored their goal, he ran into the crowd.
Yeah,
there was another booking at another game on Saturday for doing the same thing for one of the smaller clubs.
Yeah. I thought you got booked if you went in the crowd.
Of course you do.
Shirt off, crowd.
Checking club badge.
There's some dirty tackles last night as well.
Yeah, there were a few.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we'll stay angry about that. Let's move on to Brighton, though.
One thing. Sorry, I've got to mention. Sorry, Sam. Sorry. Semedo's handball, was it a penalty or not? We've got to bring it up.
No, it's down by his side.
It's never a penalty. I mean, is that biased? But I just don't think he knew anything about it. Do you?
It was about a yard from him.
Yeah.
Nah, it wasn't a penalty.
Right, okay, look, Brighton at the weekend, back at Molineux. Very, very excited. I didn't think I'd be as excited as I am to see us play in the flesh this soon. It just seems like the last season is finished. But Harry, we're being positive from what we've seen so far. We look very, very competitive, even though, Man United weren't at the races, but I think that was as much us doing that to them as they were sort of maybe a little bit ropey as they usually are. But, they're 30 unbeaten at home since the opening day of last season. But this time it's Brighton. I think actually one of the best teams I saw last season at Molineux was Brighton. 3-0 win that time round. Do you think Gary O'Neill will make any changes?
Fabio in for Sarabia, I hope he makes. If not, it'd probably been Hwang in for Sarabia. And pre-Man United, I just thought this was a loss against Brighton. I know they had a good result against Luton, a good win, although it was Luton, so take that for what you will. But if we play like we did at Old Trafford, I think it's going to be a very competitive game and anyone could win it. And I'm much more confident now that we can get a result out of this.
Dan, it's quite tense, isn't it? Because I think we're going up a team with a squad that's worth about £12 billion, which doesn't help. They have some very decent players, but some that seem to sell for a lot of money at the moment. I don't know why that is. People paying, I think, over the odds for some of their so-called superstars. How would you approach this one?
Yeah, I think this is a much tougher test. I thought Man United were crap. In no uncertain terms, if it wasn't Man United and some other club that we played against, I'd have said they were crap. I thought it was a very average Man U side we played against. So this is a much, much stiffer test. I mean, I went to the game where they beat us 6-0. That was a good day.
You actually stayed for most of it, didn't you?
We left after the 6th goal, which was poor, but
you saw a long way
back home. They're a good side. So
they are, yeah.
This is tough. And weirdly, I did the betting earlier, and it doesn't really reflect it. I think Brighton, on balance, probably are a better side at the moment.
Well, they had 27 shots against Luton as in the game that Harry just mentioned there, the 4-1 win. And to be fair, Luton, say what you like. I mean, I've said my piece on them last week, but any promoted side, first game ever in the Premier League, in their case, they're always going to be hard to beat. So a 4-1 win for them is pretty impressive. Let's do a score prediction, Harry.
I'll go for 2-2.
Bayliss.
Yeah, I wanted to go 1-1, but I'll be a bit more optimistic and say that we'll win 1-0.
1-0. I'm going to go 2-1 Wolves, obviously. Let's get your latest betting odds with Bayliss.
I didn't actually fix this, but the scorecasts are pretty much bang on.
You know us so well.
Did a little bet builder just to try and take the result out of it, as in like try and get goals and stuff. So I went with a full-time draw because I think that's going to be a decent result for us. Cunha to score in the second half and both teams to score in the second half as yes. 20-1, which I don't think is bad.
That's a good shout.
Bad bet. And then I just did a couple of scorecasts. So Wolves to win 1-0, Cunha to get the goal, 55s.
So
1-1 draw with Neto scoring for 60s.
Nice.
And Sam, this one will interest you.
Ooh.
I reckon you'll actually have a bet on this. 2-1 Wolves, João Gomez first goal.
60.
200 to 1.
Is it? Oh, that
Ooh.
is tasty. That is
Some
tasty.
value.
I
Did any
thought
of
he
you
looked brilliant.
did any of you see that massive bet, the 16 grand? Predicted
Yeah,
every single
lucky
Premier League
bugger.
result. Mhm.
Oh my god, I remember doing those sort of accumulators when I was much
Ah.
younger. Yeah, you
Wondering
come
why
out.
they don't
Bog
come
roll.
in.
I'll be one of the Dead Sea Scrolls rolling down the road trying to look if Stephen had just beaten Barrow or something.
What's that story about your cousin's mate that he got to the Sunday and had started spending the money and
He'd done
Fulham drew at Man
Yeah,
United?
no, he did a 15-fold accumulator, and 14 of them came in. And Fulham were playing Man United at Old Trafford, and he thought he was spending the money. He was like, flat screen TV over there. We're going to have the copy machine over there. We're going to have hookers and drugs. And then it was the year when Fulham beat Man United at Man United. So I can't remember the year now, but he was absolutely gutted. Obviously, we were all sort of relieved and taking the piss because you never want your mate to win 50 grand. That's it's not on the agenda. Right, okay, that's the latest betting odds from Bayliss. One thing to add, Harry, and we've sort of mentioned how he fared as captain, first proper campaign where he's been fulfilling that role. Only one game in, Max Kilman, 5-year deal, sort of shifted away the Napoli bid that came in of that 30 to 35 million pound bid. Clearly wants to stay at the club. Club clearly want to keep him. This is a great example of not only keeping hold of your assets, but making sure they're worth a few quid as well.
Yeah, I think it's really good news because if you think there was a lot of people, including me, I think I actually said it myself, that wanted Dawson to come in for him and Collins keep his place in when Dawson did come in. So he's done well to keep his place. He's had a few shaky moments, hasn't he? But he's learned his trade well. I'm glad he's got the new deal. I'm still not 100% on him being captain because he's not the most vocal. I'd rather it be Dawson than maybe him get it in a few years. But he leads with example of his performances on the pitch. I know it's a cliche thing to say, but he really does. He was fantastic at Old Trafford. He's had some really, really good performances. And I like the bloke. I think he's a great player. Left-footed as well. And guess what? He plays futsal.
Never knew
Fluent
that.
in Russian. Dan, like I say, tying down your asset, making sure that they're obviously going to be worth some money when the time comes to either move them on or they have such a brilliant campaign that other big teams are sniffing around them.
Yeah, good idea. Good to give him the deal. I think he's probably the least of my worries at the moment in the squad. I think there are some very important players that might be on the way out or could potentially be on the way out. So nice to see him here. I thought he played quite well, but I would much rather be keeping Fabio Silva and Neto and Podence than worrying too much about Kilman.
You see Podence linked with Celtic today as well?
Yeah, I saw that £12 million move potentially. No place for him on the bench. I mean, to be fair, the bench didn't look too bad, to be fair. We just run through it. Doherty, Traore, Hwang, Bueno, Kalajic, Totti Gomez, Bentley. Actually, Bentley, that's a good shout. I think he needs to be starting. I think drops are. I just there were 3 moments in that game where he completely switched off. I meant to mention it in the Man United coverage there, but I thought his decision making, Harry, was version on terrible. And so many times when you're watching Wolves and you think, your fucking heart's in your mouth because he does something so stupid, and then he's sort of going, yeah, sorry about that, yeah, no, I thought it was all right. He's nodding like a Churchill dog in the back of a car. Kilman is having a go at him. I just don't understand his decision making sometimes.
Yeah, he worries me a lot when the ball comes to his feet, and he was all at sea for their goal. I don't know what he was doing. He was miles off his line. But the thing is with Bentley, I would love him to start, but he did make that mistake against Everton last home game of the season. But if you think back to our last game at Old Trafford, he was outstanding. But Sarr's just done too many mistakes for me, and like we say, he scares the life out of me. So he's really got to up his game because we're going to be using his feet a lot as well.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's just the way they clearly want to play a bit more progressive. Bayliss, thoughts on Sarr? Are we being harsh?
Yeah, I think you are slightly. I know he makes some silly choices, but reasonably effective. He kept us in the game against United for a long time. Couldn't do a hell of a lot about the goal. His defenders let him down, letting Man United get around the back.
Bailey, he was nearly on the halfway line when the goal went in. I don't know what he was doing.
I was going to say.
You're in a crap situation there, aren't you? Really? There's not much you can do about them getting around the back.
And he come miles out for Rashford's chance as well. The first half. He saved it eventually, but it was weird how early he come out.
I just don't know enough about this Bentley to really overly comment. I've only seen him play once.
Yeah, I mean, he's only letting a couple of goals, whereas Sarr's, on a bad day, he's letting in 6 against Brighton and 5 against Arsenal. So I don't know. Maybe a new lease of life. If he's been told he's number one. Don't know.
I personally, I think Podence might go, but if we get rid of Fabio Silva, it's going to be an absolute disaster if he goes to Dortmund. But I still think he doesn't want to be here, unfortunately. It wouldn't be disgrace if he lost. Exactly, it'd be just such a disgrace. I mean, surely Fosun and Jeff look at that performance last night and think, keep everyone apart from Podence and maybe Guedes will probably go as well. But then try and add a few loans or frees. Just do it now. They've seen how the way we played. A little bit of backup, and who knows what could happen.
I mean, this will tell us, won't it? It will tell us whether they do actually care, because on that performance and how we've set up, if we keep this team now, we're going to be comfortable. They've used FFP as their excuse, which means next year, technically, they should spend again. Whereas if they don't do that and they still ship people out and they still use an excuse that's clearly bollocks, then we know that they're not in it. And that's when the fans, regardless of the performance, have to turn on the owners.
Yeah.
I just don't understand where those loans or loan to buys. I've seen so many loan to buys nearing the end of the transfer window. What, a couple of weeks to go? If Raya going to Arsenal, he's gone on a loan with an option, and they said, well, we've got the option at the end of it. We just wanted it to happen quickly, and apparently that sort of transfer happens a lot more quickly when you haven't got to do the paperwork before the move. You put it as an option at the end. I think probably both parties are interested. His agent has said he doesn't think he'll go back to Brentford. I just don't know why we're not pulling some strings with some loan players, or the promise at the end of it, because we've been pretty good at overspending for players. I mean, we'll see what happens with Cunha, but it was a pretty big outlay in January. We're always going to pay more, aren't you? But
I tell you what, one thing we want to talk about, which I don't think happened before we did last week's podcast, Traore to Fulham. Have we spoke about that? I was so shocked.
No, I don't.
We all thought he was going to Saudi Arabia, didn't we? And then all of a sudden, he's announced at Fulham. They must be giving him big wages, but good win for them as well. Raul started, him and Raul linking up again. It's just annoying to see, isn't it? I'd love to have kept Adama, another option off the bench.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, we've seen 12 months of that absolutely not happening. So I think they're trying to rewind the clock a little bit, aren't they? With the Traore assist, Jimenez goal. But I don't know, Baylis, were you shocked to see him go there? I think he probably suits the London lifestyle, wanted a bit of a change of scenery, and Fulham sort of fits the bill when you're not really good enough to get in a decent side in London.
Yeah, I think the guy overvalues his ability, doesn't he, a little bit? And as we've said, all fart, no poo. So.
I just want to mention, Sam, as well. You touched on it earlier. I was criticising Gary O'Neill last week. I know we've just completely flipping it, but it's just come back to me. I thought his interviews, I thought they were going to be the most boring things in the world to watch ever, especially his pre-match ones. But like you said, his Sky Sports interview and his interviews he's done after that game, don't you think he represented? He almost spoke like a normal fan, didn't he? When he was talking about that incident, it was so funny how he said the best line was when he went, obviously you see it happen, it is a penalty, but you're at Man United, you're at Old Trafford, so I'm not surprised it hasn't. When he said that, I was like, zing. You'll probably get charged for that, but
I agree.
He spoke so well after the game, and I loved as well when he got interviewed by the actual official Wolves website. And he was saying things like, I want to give the fans a team to be proud of. Might be a cliche thing to say, but that kind of got people up for the game, didn't it, before? He's been saying all the right things. I thought it'd be boring, but so far, in this very short window we've had of him, he's really encouraging. He's making me eat my hat because I was so underwhelmed with the appointment. And it's nice. I don't want to be, I don't want to sound like my dad a bit, but it's nice to have a British manager in charge for the first time.
I was thinking that, actually, to be fair, and I would normally not be asked really, because it just matters what's happening on the pitch. Because I mean, if we'd lost the first 10 games, we'd be going, we don't care what nationality he is if he's not getting the results. So no, completely agree. Good to see some English, some British players as well. You know, Kilman and Dawson at the back. On Fabio Silva, I just don't know why we're even thinking about selling him. I don't know if it's just if it comes down to FFP for that, it's just ridiculous, because we're not going to get any return on investment at this stage. I mean, you could do it at the end of the season when he's like banged a few in potentially, but I didn't realise that his contract runs till 2026 and there's an option for a further year in the club's favour. So I don't know why they're even potentially entertaining the idea, but I mean, it could just be some Twitter journalism.
Yeah, I just think he's not happy. It's just down to that. And you've seen with Jeff before, when people are unhappy, he's like, go then. He just lets them go, doesn't he? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
So, and they'd give him number 9. If they really wanted him and wanted to show him they wanted him, yeah, they'd give him number 9.
Yeah. Well, the numbers came out this week, and obviously before the game and stuff. And do you think people were reading a bit too far into it, Dan? That, you know, some players were wearing a number that they've had for 3 years and going, why are they not number 5 when they're number 22 or whatever?
It's just lazy journalism.
I think fans were losing their mind as well a little bit. Some people were going, well, why has he not got this? Why has he not got that?
I want to hear about this is opinion on this comment from MJ Wolf.
It says, I have a theory with our board selling anything that moves. Do you think players were playing for moves, or is that too negative?
Oh, I think that is slightly too negative.
I hope that's not true.
I can't think of anyone that overtly played for a move. I mean, Raul didn't do a lot, but
I mean, I don't know if thinking a bit too deep into this, but if you're at a club like Wolves, i.e., not the top 6, aren't all the players doing that? Aren't they all playing for the move to Liverpool that Jota got, the move to what we thought was going to be Barcelona turned out to be Saudi Arabia for Neves? But 9 times out of 10, our assets over the last couple of years have gone on to bigger and better things, and the players that you thought would do that, Neves and Jota, certainly in that bracket, and I think probably Raul would have been if he hadn't had his injury as well. And everything that's happened just makes me hate David Luiz even more. But there you go. Right, okay. Good luck if you're heading up to Molineux at the weekend. We look forward to seeing you there. Otherwise, we'll say goodbye to Harry Manson.
Yeah, it's going to be nice to be covered, isn't it, Sam? No rain,
I cannot
no pain.
wait. I don't know. I mean, looked at the weather forecast. It doesn't matter.
No, it's going to be sunny, hopefully.
If you are sat in our old seats and it rains, then
we'll laugh at you.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll point and laugh. We'll just look down at them from our king. We're in the king seats now. We're VIP. We're by Finners.
Oh, 100%.
We might as well have prawn sandwiches.
He always brings extra. And it's a goodbye from Dan Bayliss.
Goodbye.
And it's a goodbye from me. Goodbye.